So the internet is blowing up over this. While exposing Big Pharma and how dangerous the C-jab is, President Trump, who is the master of 5D chess and busy taking down the swamp, decided to receive the C-jab booster along with his F booster today. Yeah, right. And so we have this memorandum from Dr. Sean Barbabella stating that President Trump successfully completed a follow-up evaluation at Walter Reed. Lab studies performed with the visit were exceptional, really exceptional, including stable metabolic, hematologic, and cardiac parameters. Trump also received preventative health screenings and immunizations, including annual FLU and COV. We're told that his ECG showed cardiovascular vitality 14 years younger than his chronological age. I guess this guy's like a Lance Armstrong. The highlighted portions causing quite a stir. There's quite a lot of commentary on this. MJ Truth says President Trump, in preparation for his trip to the Middle East, received various immunizations. You think he really got that? How could RFK Jr. allow him to get it? MJ then references this post, number 833. You are made to feel crazy. You are told to obey. You are sheep to them, pawns to be sacrificed. Remember, we are winning. Do not trust what you read. Mind warfare. Up is down, left is right. Some are shocked. Quite a few are in denial. Here's one example. No disrespect to your profession, but just because they put it on X doesn't mean it's true. The President of the United States would never get a C-jab, and that went for Joe Biden as well. Real AF Patriot says, if you believe Trump got the C-jab, you clearly have no understanding of fifth generational warfare. This brings the C-jabs front and center. Fauci is on deck, dark to light. We'll now take a look at some of Trump's contradictory statements. This is from a radio interview with Donald Trump many years ago.
Donald, do you get the flu shot every year?
No.
Why?
No, I don't know. I've never had one. And thus far, I've never had the flu. I don't like the idea of injecting bad stuff into your body.
They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shot.
The vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind.
This is Sean Barbabella. Ghost replies, this planet is rapidly becoming one final episode of Survivor. General Flynn's commentary, is this called uninformed choice? I wonder if he asked his head of HHS, Secretary Kennedy. I simply cannot believe he did this. Jay Scott says, Trump is a lost cause. Hopefully people figure out that soon so we can stop playing this lesser of two evils game. Have you ever considered running for office? We are making it easy for genuine people who mean well to run. More denial. I would wager a fair chunk of change he got saline with some vitamins added in, but they told him he got the C-jab. LOL, no he didn't. It's just to get you guys riled up. He posted on social media like 3 weeks ago that they're all poison. Add 2 and 2 together, it's a psyop. If you call a tail a leg, how many legs does a dog have? Answer 4. Just because you call a tail a leg doesn't make it one. No FW did Trump get any COVID C-jabs. The whole thing is just propaganda. Is the White House the asylum?
The United States government, the most powerful, the greatest customer, buys stuff. We walk in, we're gonna buy, here's the example I like to use. We're gonna buy 2 billion COVID vaccines. When we buy it, Pfizer and Moderna stocks are gonna triple. They're gonna triple. So then we say everyone's gonna have this vaccine. If I were, after Jared Kushner negotiated the best deal he could, Howard Lutnick walked in the room, Howard Lutnick would say, what do you think, 20% warrants? 20% warrant?
We know that Donald Trump used to mention how great The View was during a lot of his rallies and other public speaking engagements. He was told of the risks and personal experiences that came as a consequence of his Operation Warp Speed. I'll play a clip.
President Trump is not president at this time, and he's talking to the senators. He's talking about really important stuff, and I'm just minding my own business going, I don't know how I got in this room. Well, okay. I'm sitting elbow to elbow with him. It's about an hour into dinner. I hadn't said a word, just been listening. And Trump gets through eating, and you've seen him do this move right here. Yeah. Wherever in the big boardroom he does this. Okay, that's what he does. He goes, can I ask you a question, John Rich? He never calls me John. John Rich? I look at him and I go, yes, sir. What's the question? He goes, well, you do a lot of big shows. Like, you're an entertainer? Yes, sir. You play for really big crowds? I go, I do. I play for really big crowds for a long time. He goes, well, have you seen these rallies I'm doing? Like, it's 30, 40,000 people. I said, yeah, it's unbelievable. He goes, so here's the question. Why are people booing me at my rallies when I bring up the vaccine? This is the question. from the President of the United States. A guy who is very proud at that moment of the fact that he was able to stomp the gas pedal and get that thing out because he's under the impression this is going to fix the problem.
Operation Warp Speed.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a guy who, to his own admission, one of the biggest egos on the earth.
Yeah.
And he's very proud of this. And I respect him to, there is no limit.
Right.
But I'm being asked a very direct question. And so, man, I looked at him and I said, okay, I'm going to tell you the answer and you're not going to like it. He goes, okay, what's the answer? You're going to look at me like this? I said, let me start off by saying this. We, the American people, do not trust the people that you were forced to trust at the time when this was happening. Let's start there. And I said, by the people we don't trust, here's who I mean. The FDA, the CDC, the NIH, the WHO, Fauci, and all the rest of them. I said, Mr. President, we consider them to be a bunch of murderous, depopulationist psychopaths.
And his reaction was...
That's a good way to start.
His eyes are, he goes, unbelievable. Unbelievable. He's stunned. No, he is stunned that I said that. I said, now, let me tell you why they're booing you. I said, because all of them, including me, I said, I would boo you. I would boo you.
Did you really?
You did not. I would boo you.
Really?
If you brought that up, and here's why. And he's looking at me, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the last time this guy's going to invite me to anything.
Yeah.
He's never going to call me again. I'm throwing massive shade on a former president's, in his mind, one of his biggest accomplishments. And it dawned on me, nobody had told the man what I was telling him right now, because they all work for him. They all got something to gain from him.
Yes.
They're not going to tell him this because they're not serving him well. I don't work for him, and I think a lot of him, and I want him to understand the truth about it. So I said, here's the problem. Here's why they're booing you, Mr. President, because every human being out in that rally, either themselves or they know someone directly who has been harmed by the vaccine or has even died from it, including me. I said, I got members of my own family who were forced to take it against their will to keep their jobs, and now they've got all kinds of problems, big problems, heart problems, lung problems. And he's looking at me, and he looks around the table and he goes, this is unbelievable. I mean, he goes, has anyone else heard this?
He goes on to say that Lindsey Graham was at the meeting and tried to spoil this, eliciting the FBI code word slide mechanism. But if John Rich's story is to be believed, then Trump has been informed. Dr. Mary Bolton is noting some policy changes. The CDC expands access for pregnant women. Now compare that to the observations, the observed to expected fetal losses following the jab in early pregnancy. Analysis of 226,395 singleton pregnancies in Israel from 2016-2022 indicates that the C-jab with dose 1 during weeks 8 to 13 was associated with a higher than expected observed number of fetal losses of approximately 13 versus 9 expected for every 100 exposed pregnancies. Most of the expected fetal losses occurred after gestational week 20, and nearly half occurred after gestational week 25. Similarly, women given dose 3 during weeks 8 to 13 exhibited higher than expected number of fetal losses with nearly 1.9, I think this is the odds ratio, additional fetal losses per 100 pregnancies. In contrast, those women given the FLU during weeks 8 to 27 exhibited lower than expected fetal losses, likely the result of a healthy jabby bias. So we're seeing a difference between the two jabbies. The same healthy bias would also pertain to the C-jab, suggesting that the deleterious effect is even greater than it would be otherwise. Not considered ethical to do the gold standard clinical trial for these Vs, so we have a cohort study with this evidence. Now let's look at the autopsy findings of fatal C-induced myocarditis. These have been linked to myocarditis, which can be fatal in some cases. For this review article, 1,691 studies were identified, included 14 papers and 28 autopsy cases. The cardiovascular system was the only organ system affected in 26 cases. In 2 cases, myocarditis was characterized as a consequence from multi-system inflammatory syndrome. The mean age of death was 44 years old. The mean number of days from the last jab received until death was 6 and 3 days respectively. We established that all 28 deaths were likely causally linked to the V by independent review of clinical information presented. The temporal relationship, the timing relationship, internal and external consistency seen among the cases in this review with known CV-induced myocarditis, its pathological mechanisms, and related excess death, complemented with autopsy confirmation, independent adjudication, and application of the Bradford-Hill criteria to the overall epidemiology, suggests that there is a high likelihood of a causal link between the V and death from myocarditis. This study is a smaller point, really just looking at the impact of receiving the V itself from the side effect standpoint. This is a multi-center cross-sectional survey conducted at Risenberg University Medical Center, Germany. Of 2,662 participants, 91% received the V without history of, sick leave and second V occurred in 10% and 23% participants. What this means is 10% of the participants had to take a day off of work after receiving the V. And then when they got their second dose, 23% in total had to take a day off of work. So we're talking about an intervention that affects the immediate quality of life of a quarter of workers who receive it. Just taking into consideration the VAERS report in stillbirth and miscarriage, the human population might actually begin to crater because of the intervention. We have a sudden change, something received by 3/4 of the U.S. reproductive population. It's something where the associated spike proteins can be found at the site of developed cancers, something that can integrate into the human genome, as shown in several studies. It's the height of arrogance to fail to consider the long-term risk of a new intervention, especially one that involves the information of life, DNA and RNA. The leader of the free world has submitted to the intervention. We have Patriots bargaining that he received saline and that this is 5GW, knowing the influence the leader of the free world has on the people. Ann Vandersteel gives an account that there was a time Eric Don Jr. and others all spoke at the Reawaken America tour where the theme was about this DNA God gene mutilating weapon and how bad it is. They even would call up President Trump to speak to all of us, thus giving the appearance that he knew how bad it was. My interest in this topic, as well as my interest in hidden Patriot continuity of government theories around the presidency, even my interest in what happened to Charlie Kirk. Much of these interests are influenced by a deep-seated desire to understand the motivations of the forces that control our society, trying to discern if this miracle that saved Trump was that the hand of God? Was that advanced human technology? Was that theater? To discern accurately takes the correct integration of tons of information. If Charlie was hit by a second round to the chest, in addition to a known round to the neck, does this implicate a foreign actor or individuals within our own intelligence agencies? Or was this outcome manipulated through advanced technology? Technology that can even insert new confusing elements within itself. This is a time for us to define our values, to find the tribes of those who generate trust, and to learn to think critically. And in this, we should not give in to despair.